So with Tokyo Game Show right around the corner, many game developers are holding special early access previews showing off new information about upcoming games and projects coming out later in the year or in early 2024. In Cygames' case, they recently had a special livestream presentation where they showed off new gameplay of their upcoming games Granblue Fantasy vs Rising and Granblue Fantasy Relink. And while I would love to talk and gush about Relink the entire video, that's not what I want to focus on today. Instead, I want to talk about a couple of things I noticed in the Versus Rising showcase that I haven't really seen anybody else talk about or even bring attention to, especially considering the fact that Cygames themselves have said that they would try to bring more changes or different changes to Rising before its full release in November after hearing about some of the complaints during the first beta back in July. However, before we take a look at these changes, we got two very important updates from this livestream. The first of which being that the next beta for Rising will officially drop sometime early to mid-fall. The second one being that a follow-up presentation for the game has been officially announced for mid-November, meaning that everything that is being said right now should be taken with a major grain of salt, as it could be subject to change at any point before or after either event. So with that out the way, what was shown at this presentation that is so important? Well, from what I've gathered from the small bits and pieces of new gameplay shown, as well as talking to other Granblue players, the team at Cygames and ArcSys definitely listened to the feedback that was given to them and went back to the drawing board, and really tried to fine-tune some of the bigger gameplay concerns that many people had. Those being ultimate skills and raging strike. Ultimate skills, people kind of felt as if they were lackluster outside of a few specific bunch depending on the character. Thankfully, from what was shown, that isn't the case anymore, since it seems it kind of gone back on a gameplay decision with ultimate skills specifically, as we can clearly see throughout multiple instances of characters using their ultimate skills to initiate new combos versus their opponents. The first of which being Sora's, using his ultimate impact knuckle, which now seems to have armor frames on startup as well as wall bounce properties, which allowed him to hit through Belial's Asmodeus and follow up with a far heavy, which he then cancels into what looks like to be the light version of Punch the Stars. Another example is Zeta hitting Eustace with her ultimate Spear of Arvish, which now also has wall bounce properties, allowing her to get a 2H anti-air on him and follow up with Light Arvish Rise. From these two instances, we can see that ultimate skills have clearly been reworked into combos tools instead of the situational option selects that they used to be for certain characters, which is initially how they were meant to function, as we can see early on when Rising was first shown, characters like Gran and Catalina using their ultimate skills in conjunction with normals to pressure or counter hit their opponent. However, this change doesn't come without a price, because unlike what was shown in the first trailer, supposedly you can't combo into ultimate skills, but you can combo out of them. Every instance of ultimate skills being shown doesn't start with a normal into skill cancel, but with a skill hitting or counter hitting raw or after a raging strike. Now me personally, I hope we can't combo into them, because the idea of being hit by some of these moves off of a hit confirm seems terrifying, especially since certain ultimate skills have now been given new properties in order to better reflect the prior two changes. And to be honest, these changes are very welcome and definitely make ultimate skills seem much more worthwhile in comparison to how weak they were before. Especially since I think as they are now, they act as the perfect counter to the other mechanic everyone talked about, Raging Strike. Now Raging Strike, from what was shown, doesn't seem to be all that different outside of having its frame data / animation frames heavily nerfed. However, despite this big nerf, I don't think Raging Strike will be used any less than it was before. It obviously won't be as strong of an option as it was in the first beta, but I honestly think both mechanics as they are now kind of bounce off of each other and work in tandem with the game's more footsie, bait and punish playstyles in order to bring Rising in a new direction, changing the way moment to moment interactions play out. For example, in a typical versus situation where you would want to save meter, Rising now encourages you to use your meter more deliberately in ways that allow you to be as aggressive or defensive as you deem necessary. This is perfectly illustrated in the Narmaya clip where after hitting a Raging Strike, her options of what she can do afterwards are opened up. She can opt to spend another 25 SBA meter to get a Raging Chain, or she can save the other 75 SBA meter and spend it on the ultimate skill, getting whatever follow-up or set play afforded to her, or she could even go for regular BNB, then cash out the rest of the SBA meter she's built up through the BNB on another Raging Strike plus Chain, or even another ultimate skill combo. In turn, these changes have vastly improved the combo variety of the game, making for more engaging and interactive gameplay while still retaining Granblue Fantasy Versus' more methodical and neutral focus foundation as a whole. But obviously, I'm saying all this in hypotheticals, since all of this is still very speculatory and we don't know for sure how these or any of the other changes, such as throws and meter penalty while using heavy skills, could play out altogether once the final release of the game hits shelves. What we have been shown right now though, gives me hope that Cygames is very much trying to make a game that both they and their players can feel proud about at the end of the day. And if you want to check out the other things that they talked about and showed off during the presentation, I'll leave a link to the video down in the description below. And while you're down there, why don't you leave a like, share the video with friends, and leave a comment on your opinions on the game and the changes. Also, feel free to click on that sub button if you want to stay up to date on all things Granblue Fantasy Versus and Reeling, as well as other games like Under Night In-Birth 2. And I'm going to see you guys next time. Peace.